Hopefully he will get the first question to go first. So Ralph, this is question one, if you happen to have the number anyway. California spends over $9 billion a year on corrections. In developing policies for charging and plea bargaining, would you consider the impact these choices have on both the counties and the state's corrections budget?
Well, actually, I think that's really important. Look at that. I don't know if this mic's working right, but you have to look at the budget. I think of the state and the county and everything, because it's one of those things that is so in the forefront of all of our minds. We have a budget that we have to work with. So I think what you do is you don't necessarily use your charging. You don't charge things lesser because you're worried about finances, because you just can't do that. It's not a great public policy. What you do is you charge what you think you can prove, and then as far as sentencing, what you do in court, the judge makes the sentence decision, but you advocate for programs, you advocate for other things. You also have things like, if you do take a plea, one of the things that you can do that's very cost effective everywhere is to get a appellate waiver. You get that appellate waiver, then you stop the appeals and everything else going on. And that saves an awful lot of money. We looked at that. I've trained in the DA's office about how to do that effectively, and that's something I would definitely look at.
Thank you. Tim, same question. California spends over $9 billion a year on corrections. In developing policies for charging and plea bargaining, would you consider the impact these choices have on both the counties and the state's corrections budget?
In some ways, yes. And let me clarify and exclude from those areas. With regard to the function of charging, that's an ethical responsibility that members of the office take very seriously. One thing that we will not do is alter the charging to effectuate the California Department of Corrections budget. I stand for the premise that even in post-realignment, that our state prisons are for the most serious and violent felons that commit crimes in our communities. I think it's our responsibility to charge accordingly, and those who, if they have violated the law, should be housed in state prison. This issue is really the global issue of realignment and why we have realignment. And so the second part of that, absolutely, we have to factor in smart ways how we are going to sentence and allow our bed space in our local facilities to be occupied. We've got to be smart about how we resolve cases, but we've also got to make sure that from the district attorney's standpoint, we have a singular focus, and that's to provide justice to the victims of crime, rehabilitation, restitution to those victims, and we're going to protect the communities, and that's our first and foremost responsibility. But we're going to do it ethically and responsibly, but we have to look at it globally and make sure that when we're talking about dispositioning of cases, that we do so with the ultimate goal that we can rehabilitate that person, hopefully not see them in the system, continue that budget anomaly, because what that figure, the reason why it increases so much is the repeat recidivism rate that's been inherent in CDCR for decades.
Thank you. Second question for Tim. First, studies show racial disparities in drug law enforcement, despite the fact that white people and people of color use and sell drugs at about the same rates. What would you do to minimize these disparities?
We, under our torch in our office, we kind of go by the motto that no one is above enforcement of the law and no one is below protections of the law. But other than that, we are not looking at in the charging function of what our deputy district attorneys to do anything other than an individual whether they committed a crime. In fact, it's not something that we look at when we decide to file charges. So we must work closely with law enforcement, but really this is a training and awareness issue for our staff. And I'm proud to say that we continue to train in conjunction with our office, the local bar, and the California District Attorneys Association on inherent bias, if you will, for lack of a better term, in the criminal justice system. So we're going to do everything we can to eliminate that. Really, a lot of the studies focus on law enforcement, and they do bear the burden of that when the cases come to us. We look at them, they're simply black and white because it's ink on a paper, and that's really all it is. And we're not going to look, and we should not look any different. We're going to treat everybody fairly and equally.
Thank you. For Ralph, same question. Studies show racial disparities in drug law enforcement, despite the fact that white people and people of color use and sell drugs at about the same rates. What would you do to minimize these disparities?
Well, it's so important that everyone's treated fairly by the criminal justice system. It doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter, whether you have a deer in our by your name or anything else, none of that should matter. So what happens is you review cases exactly how, when they come in, I would train my people to do what I always did and what I was taught, is you don't look at a particular, you don't look what the person looks like, you don't know who they are, you just look at the case and you evaluate the case for what it's worth and whether or not that person is black or white or not. That doesn't make any difference because treat everyone in the criminal justice system the same. That person could be a law enforcement officer, person could be a teacher, that person could be a homeless person. It really doesn't make any difference. And you need to train that way. You need to start that way at the top. You have someone who has the passion to do the job, someone who cares a lot about what they're doing, and then you teach that and you train that, and that will fall through the entire organization.
Thank you. On to the next question where Ralph will lead off. Ralph, what would you do to reduce the number of juveniles, particularly Latino, African American, and Asian American youth who are brought into the criminal justice system? What policies would you put in place to ensure fair and unbiased use of prosecutorial discretion in juvenile court?
Well, I think the first part of your question talks about what would I do before I bring them into the system. So the thing is, what I think the district attorney's office needs to do, and I'm an advocate of this, I've been talking about this, but I think the district attorney's office needs to get out into the community. There are programs that the district attorney's office has and should continue not only to have those, but seek out alternate programs. And you need to go to where you can really effectuate those juveniles. You need to go to the schools. We need to be talking in the schools. We need to continue with other programs like your Step Up and those kind of programs. But, part of the thing is there's some of these things that we're taught to do is outreach and tell the community what we're doing. But we need to go to where the heart of the problems are in some of these things. So we need to go into the areas where we can really talk to those kids and try to get those kids not to get into a life of crime. But then the second part of your question talks about what would I do when they're in the system? Well, I think that depends on the age of the child and everything else, but I don't think, again, that you charge necessarily something different. What you do is you try to have programs, and they're evidence-based programs that you work with, and probation has a lot of really good programs that they're working with. And you train your deputy district attorneys, and what they do is they know which programs are good and which programs aren't. And you try to work and get those people into those programs, because what we need to do is we need to change those juveniles around at that time, because that's the best thing that we can do for our community to make sure that those children don't grow up into a life of crime.
Thank you. Tim, same question. First, what would you do to reduce the number of juveniles, particularly Latino, African American, and Asian American youth who are brought into the criminal justice system? And then what policies would you put in place to ensure fair and unbiased use of prosecutorial discretion in juvenile court?
With regard to the second aspect of that, a lot of the premises remain. We are going to be, as we currently are today, and for evermore henceforth, looking at every case on a case-by-case basis, and we're not going to be considering a person's gender, race, orientation in any way, in not only the filing of charges, but the disposition of the case. The juvenile justice system has a lot of what I'll call diversion programs. We are utilizing those every day. I've been your district attorney for over a year now. Two functions or two decisions that I made directly impact this. Number one, I put the most experienced team out in our juvenile justice division than we've ever had. I spread our experience across the office. Some of our attorneys didn't like that. We had attorneys that have been in the office for a number of years, and day one on the job, I looked them in the eye and said, there's no job above us and no job below us, and some of those people went to the juvenile justice system, and they're doing great work there. Secondly, the other thing that I did was I told our staff that we're going to increase our outreach and our education to the community. And I'm proud to say that in 2013, we touched over 10,000 people in our communities, many of whom are in our schools. We are, by the very the office that we hold, we can be great role models for our children in the communities and our students in our high schools. And we're going to do everything we can to do that. And I'm proud to say that we've been doing that all year long, and we're going to continue to do it.
Thank you. Our fourth question. This one will start with Tim. As district attorney, how would you handle a fatal use of force incident involving local police?
As the member of the Police Chiefs Association, technically the district attorney is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. When I became district attorney, I met with the police chiefs, and the issue of officer-involved shootings and these fatal use of force was something that's been talked about for a while. It's been in transition. Our standpoint is we did not want any singular police agency to investigate their own. We wanted and asked for the police chiefs to join in making a decision that an outside agency will review any shooting by a member of their agency. And I'm proud to say, not because of me, but because of the great organization of our police chiefs, we're doing that now. So we do have some degree of transparency looking at the role that we have, though, is, in a way, we police the police, I guess, in that regard. And that is a decision that I take very seriously. Anytime a case like that comes in, I assign the most senior staff in our office to review that. Our supervisor of our homicide team and assistant DA or another supervisor in the office, if he's not available to do it in a timely manner, are going to review those cases. Those are our most senior attorneys. Those are also then going to be looked at by the executive management team and make sure that the correct decision was made. We're going to try to make that decision in a timely manner for the community, and we've been doing that very well, I think, because the community needs to know that there is somebody looking out as I guess, an oversight, for lack of a better term, for the agencies to do that. And the police chiefs buy into that as well.
Thank you. Ralph, same question. As district attorney, how would you handle a fatal use of force incident involving local police?
Well, the important thing to know is that another agency always reviews that case. So what happens is the first thing they do is they go out and do the investigation. So if I say a police officer is involved in a fatal shooting incident, then that's usually investigated by deputy sheriffs or somebody else like that. And then they'll send that case to the DA's office. And, you know, I've stood for this premise from day one, and I say it every time, but it doesn't really matter what walk of life you are, those cases need to be reviewed like any other case. And so you review those cases, you look at those cases carefully, and, you know, it's a rare circumstance where law enforcement need to have charges filed upon them. But if they do, then they know that the person that they're backing in this race is willing to charge them if I have to. But that's not what I want to do. That's not what anybody wants to do. But you have to be willing to be the person who's going to make the hard choices and do the right thing every single time.
Thank you. Question 5 for Ralph to start with. 63% of people in California's jails are being held pre-trial. What steps would you take to safely reduce the rate of pre-trial incarceration in our county?
Well, I think that probation is working on that really hard right now. Being someone who works within the system right now as a criminal defense attorney, I see these cases happen quite often. Probation does a risk analysis, and I don't think they release enough of these people because they just don't have enough ways to do that yet, but they are working on it. And I do think that pre-trial, the real big issue is that you are innocent until proven guilty. But the thing that's important is that the community needs to be kept safe. And when judges look at bail, they look at the fact that you are guilty, really, before you're actually proven guilty. That's what actually the code says, because you believe it to be true. So I think probation, the sheriff's department, the district attorney, they all need to get together. And if someone's really dangerous, nobody here, nobody anywhere else wants them on the street. And you work out those people in. But the people that are not in danger, that can still walk our streets while they're fighting their case, that should be done. I would do everything I can to do that.
Thank you. Tim, same question. 63% of people in California's jails are being held pre-trial. What steps would you take to safely reduce the rate of pre-trial incarceration in our county?
My predecessor, Phil Klein, tasked me with, prior to realignment ever becoming law, to join the California District Attorneys Association on the training for the DA's offices around the state. As a result of that, we were better prepared in our county because of our CCP for this very issue. So let me answer it this way. We expanded our early case disposition courts, which is in custody individuals that are arrested. They have a court date. Right after that court date, we have a short court date setting out at the pretrial facility in North County. And we have a probation officer, a district attorney, a member of the defense bar right there to address those early confinement issues at the earliest time. After that, there's some cases that don't resolve in the early case disposition status. The post-realignment crunch for us has been in notifying victims of these pretrial release hearings. We're going to do that. It's our job. It's something that we've taken on. It's how we use our CCP funding. That was a question earlier. That's how we use it. We're going to make sure that we notify the victims that we're doing it. We have to do it. Another way that we're doing it is, for the first time ever, I instituted a community accountability program for low-level misdemeanor offenders that are in jail, to have a pre-filing diversion program to keep those individuals out of the facility in the first place for driving on a suspended license, driving without a license. Those are not the individuals that should be taking up our sheriff's bed space. So we're hitting it on a global approach from a number of different levels.
Thank you. Question 6. This one is for Tim to start with. As DA, what would you do to develop a trusting relationship with the immigrant community in Tulare County?
Prior to becoming DA, when I was assistant DA, I oversaw a grant application, and we were awarded a grant application to serve the it was an underserved grant. We added Spanish-speaking victim advocates to assist in that communication of victims and witnesses entering into the criminal justice system. I understand that population could be hesitant to report or continue to be a witness based on immigrant status. I'm here to tell you that we have done a lot of good outreach with promoting the U visa and T visa programs that, quite frankly, I was appalled at how the communities out there didn't even know that your immigration status cannot be used in any way to deter you from participating in the criminal justice system. Every single brochure that we have in our office, when I took over, I made sure that we had those available in the Spanish language as well. And I think we're down to the last one, maybe one or two left that are being reviewed right now. We're doing everything we can, again, in that decision I made to increase our education and outreach to make sure that the underserved communities know that your status is not in any way a factor. As I said, no one is below enforcement, or no one is below protection of the law, and we're going to do everything we can to communicate that. And the U visa, T visa program is a great program to do that with.
Thank you. Same question for Ralph. As DA, what would you do to develop a trusting relationship with the immigrant community in Tulare County?
I think the first thing you do is you go out and talk to them. You go all over this this entire county, and you go out and you talk to them. You have office hour in different areas of the community. You let people come talk to you about what's going on. With regard to status, nobody's status should make any difference regarding if they're a victim of a crime, you're a victim of a crime, and we want to help you. The youth visa program's been around for a long time. In the district attorney's office, at least as of December of this last year, there wasn't a program to have somebody reviewing those quickly and effectively. There may be now, I know it's an election year, but it's important that people know that you have to go out there, you have to talk to the people, you have to treat everybody the same, because that's the way it is. And so, that's one of the things I've taken very seriously. I've gone out and talked to people. I've already, I've been all over this county. And I think it's important that everybody out there feels included and that nobody feels that they're not part of the system. And so not only do I feel it's important, it's the right thing to do, because as a DA, you need to do the right thing for the right reasons every day. The other thing is, I'm proud to say that, my opponent and I have talked to different groups, and we've gone out and, I've been endorsed by the Tulare County Hispanic Roundtable. I've been endorsed by El Centro Americano Latino. I've gone out to these groups and I've talked to them. I've shared with them the vision that I have for the county, and they have chosen me to be their next district attorney. And I appreciate that, and that shows the level of participation that I want to have with not only those communities, but every community in the county.
Thank you. Question 7 for Ralph to start off. What would you do as the DA to address the criminalization of the homeless?
Well, we actually just got asked that question fairly recently ago. One of the things I think we have to do is we have to have coalition group of different agencies together. And it's important that, not every one of these people has mental health problems, but we need to work with mental health very closely so that we can help these people. Nobody wants to criminalize homeless people just for, laying in the street or doing anything like that. That's not going to do anyone any good. So we need to have these partnership programs. We need to work with not only law enforcement, work with mental health, work with crisis intervention, these kind of things, so we can help these people. And if these people need treatment, we ought to provide that treatment. We ought to have some different kind of coalition group, community organizations. There's a lot of things out there. If we train our law enforcement and our district attorney's office to help these people, then that's what's going to work in the long run. It's not going to work to just throw them in jail.
Thank you. Tim, same question. What would you do as the DA to address the criminalization of the homeless?
And I can answer this not in the what if, but in the what did I do. I took a stand when our cities wanted to create a homeless diversion court and solve this problem by arresting the homeless and yet then divert them into a program. I took a stand and said absolutely not. We are not going to waive or set aside our ethical obligations because we're not going to do it. It wasn't the right thing to do. And we came to a resolution that I think is meaningful on that. But we took the stand. I took the stand. That is not going to happen under our regime. Our attorneys know, and our staff knows that is not going to happen. I didn't have to train my attorneys to not file charges when there's no crime. We've got the most professional and senior staff that we've had in a long time. This is really an issue for cities and communities out there. We're going to partner with them in every way that we can, but the reality is I, as the district attorney, am not going to allow our office and our charging function to be utilized in some way to solve that as a housing issue. That's not the right thing to do. So we took that stand and it's been productive.
Okay, thank you both. It's now time for our closing statements. And it is Tim's turn to go first. So 3 minutes. Tim Ward, your closing statement.
Thank you, and again, thanks for coming out tonight. In the interest of brevity, let me tell you that I've been your district attorney for over a year now. I was proud when your district attorney for 20 years, Phil Klein, talked to me and asked me to be his replacement. I was proud when the Board of Supervisors unanimously chose me to do that well over a year ago, and I still have their unwavering support and unanimous support today. I don't come out and sit in front of you tonight and say, as your DA, I'm going to aggressively prosecute homicide cases and gang cases and violent crimes, because the reality is, quite frankly, that's my job. That is the fire that burns in our belly every day when we wake up and go to work. That's what we love doing. What our office has done is take an approach that we're going to protect our vulnerable victims first. We looked at our rural crime prevention program, added more resources there. We looked at protecting the most vulnerable victims in our communities, and those are our children. For the first time ever in the history of this office, and really a pioneering thing around the state, I created a division that does nothing but crimes against children, from all crime types, ranging from homicide to sexual assault to physical abuse, neglect, drug endangerment. The children that are not only victimized, but the children that are witnesses to these cases have better wraparound services now than they've ever had before, and I'm proud of the work that our staff's done. We didn't stop there. We enhanced our domestic violence, our intimate violence programs. We enhanced our elder abuse programs, because that's where our focus needed to be, and it's where it was. Let's first and foremost set forth an office structurally that's going to protect, in the realm of public safety, our most vulnerable victims first. Didn't do it at the expense of not prosecuting the other cases. Quite to the contrary. We restructured and made our office more efficient in how we do business. Going forward, we're looking at some innovative things. We're going to continue with our civil gang injunctions. I am developing a task force on human trafficking. That's something that's near and dear to many of us. We're going to be tackling this underground economy going forward, and we're going to be leading the county and really the state in the innovative things that we're doing. We're already doing it. We are one of the few offices that's, in essence, paperless post-filing. We file all our cases electronically with the court. There's a few other offices around the state that do it. We're an innovative office. We're a new office. And I can tell you, as your district attorney, I've got a great group of men and women who stand ready. They're passionate to do it. I've been in public service my entire adult life. I was an armor officer in the U.S. Army prior to taking this job. I've served under the oath to protect the Constitution for a long time. I love doing what I do. And I'm proud of the people that carry the torch along with me. And with your continued support, our office is going to stand ready to meet whatever the challenge is coming up in the future. So thank you very much.
Ralph Cable, your 3-minute closing statement, please.
Thank you very much for being here. I'm Ralph Cable. I'm running for district attorney, and I want to tell you just a little bit about myself. I was a prosecutor here in Tulare County for 14 years. I did pretty much every kind of crimes. I worked in the, juvenile division, the misdemeanor division, welfare fraud. I prosecuted child sexual assault. I supervised that division. I also prosecuted in the Porterville area. I always wanted to be in law enforcement. Fortunate that the article came out in the paper today. You could read a little bit about me. But I wanted to be in law enforcement, and I decided to go in the district attorney's office. I have a bachelor's in public administration, and I graduated with honors from Cal State Divinity. And I just want to lead this office. I want to lead. I want to make our community safer. One of the things that I just want you to pay attention very closely, when you listen to both of us speak, and you listen to where we're going in this county, my opponent used the word regime, and under his regime, the first thing he did in office is he let go of 2 attorneys with a lot of experience, and that was about 28 years worth of experience. And then, as I'm running for district attorney, I've already been endorsed at that time by 6 law enforcement agencies, including the Deputy Sheriff's Association, including the the Police Officers Association of Visalia, Dianula, Lindsay, Exeter, and the Probation Association. My opponent, for political reasons, let my wife go, who had been with the district attorney for 15 years. Is this really what we want as our district attorney? And, you know, it's not a personal thing. And it's something I think is important that everyone know. And the reason I think that it's so important is because when you get rid of someone just for political reason, is that the person that we want as our top prosecutor? And I'm supported by a lot of law enforcement. Everyone knows that. I just want to do the right thing for the right reasons every day. And I ask for your support and your help in being your next district attorney.
Thank you, audience, for your attention.